Hello friends. So in some of my comments I was talking to a guy who's been very supportive, and it was on the video about the limits of the ego. Where does the ego say our limits are? And he was talking about edges, and when he said edges it really brought up this idea in my mind about bread basically, and edges, the crust of the bread. So the physical world is very hard. You can't push your hand through walls, and it's supposed to be, in idealism, it's supposed to be all mind, but it's so hard. My thoughts are not as hard as the table, so it can't be the same thing. Now we do know that in science nothing is in fact hard. Everything is just pretty much 99.99% nothing, and then there's these fields and things that stop you pushing your hands together through each other because of the electrons, like a magnet repels. In the same way, you can't push your hand through, because despite this all space, it's got all these fields that stop you from entering the space. So there's nothing, and in our heads, everything, all of this is generated. So all the solidity we feel, the touch of our fingers, the hardness we feel is actually in our brains. This is qualia. It's a mental thing that we're feeling there. If we feel pain when we hit something, that's actually in your brain, according to materialism I'm talking about, or in your mind if you're talking about idealism. There's nothing actually that's really solid. Now, an idea from David Bohm, I'm a big fan of David Bohm, is that you have the subtle. So subtle, he likes etymology, so he likes looking at word origins. And subtle comes from finely woven, so like tulle, and tulle may be connected to textile or something like that. So finely woven, so fine mesh. And the solid, the physical world is very, not subtle at all. And then thought is more subtle. So it's like a net that can catch thought and can catch the material world. It's finely woven, and thought is able to be caught in this net of thought. You can the thought is more subtle than the real world. The real world cannot catch thought. You can't grab a thought. There is a continuum between the physical world and the mental world. It's all mental. It's all the same, on the same thing. But the physical world is like the crust of the bread. It's made of the same stuff as the rest of the bread, but it's gone hard, and it creates these edges to things. Now, more subtle, even more subtle than thought, is spirit, or some deep understanding of the mind of God. So you have you can grasp things, you can think about things with your mind, but you can't grasp thought with your hands. In the same way, you can't think about the deep spiritual truths. It's an understanding that can't be caught by thought. And this doesn't mean that it can't be understood. Maybe it can't be understood because when you understand, you've turned it into thought. But there can be an understanding. There is an intelligence that is deeper than thought. Thought acts through limitation. So you cannot understand the spiritual. It's too subtle to be grasped by the thought, in the same way that you can't grasp solid things. You can't grasp thoughts with your hands. So I thought that would be just something I could talk about. I hope it was interesting enough. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.